Hi everyone, welcome back to the Active Knowledge series, The Practice of Non-Greed in Business. Today we're going to begin the journey of looking at each one of the elements of the competitive engine and just beginning to unpack them. So this language which I've used of not just understanding the word, e.g. leadership, for example, what we're looking at today, but understanding the right character. What is the nature of the leadership? The type of leadership maybe is a way to express it, which is required for the competitive engine to lift the performance and the competitiveness of an organization up. So we're going to start this journey today. We're going to start with leadership. Leadership is the most important determinant of the competitiveness of any organization, any business, and therefore the determinant of its success. Everything flows from leadership. But there's a condition to be put beside that. It is not just any leadership, it is what I refer to as worthy leadership. Non-greed, the competitive engine, looks for and requires worthy leaders to deliver the outcomes which it is seeking. So in today's presentation on leadership, we're going to progressively work our way through as we look at leadership from different perspectives to arrive at what I hope will be a very clear view of worthy leadership. Leadership provides the moral value and strength of purpose of an organization. That's a pretty strong statement. Leadership provides the moral value and strength of purpose of an organization. Who are we and why are we here? The default answer for a long time has been we're here to make a profit for our shareholders. What we're doing is we're changing that and saying making a profit for your shareholders is one of the outcomes from knowing who you are and why you're here, but it's not the reason. And the analogy, I think a good one, was given by Peter Drucker, which basically says to say organizations, businesses exist to make a profit, that's their reason for existence, is like saying humans exist to breathe. It's nonsensical. Organizations exist to fulfill a purpose, a need in the community, and if they do that well, then profit is one of the things which comes from that. Leadership provides the moral value and strength of purpose of an organization. We're looking for worthy leaders throughout an entire organization, not just one or two, but a network of worthy leaders. And again, we'll speak about this as we go forward throughout the entire organization. Worthy leadership lies in character, and character is something which we struggle with. We're happy to look at experience, we're happy to look at qualifications, we're happy to look at connections, we look at many other attributes of an individual, but when we come to who are you as a person, we struggle with that. But worthy leadership, as you will see, lies in character. Who are you as a person and why are you here? Just coming up on your screen now, you'll see the 8 areas we're going to look at as we begin to circle this question of leadership and begin to look at it from different aspects and build our picture of leadership. 1, conception and death. 2, the physics of leadership. 3, the role of leaders. 4, 5 marks of death when an organization is failing. 5, failure and how leaders deal with that. 6, self-interest and success. 7, character and the importance of it. And 8, how all that comes down into the worthy leader. So we're going to progressively work our way through and just touch on each one of these perspectives of leadership. And I hope this will build for you a very clear picture of how it all comes together. Just before we step into that, I just want to spend a moment and just revisit 2 things. The 3 circles of achievement, advancement, which we've spoken about before in chapters 1 and 2 of the practice of non-greed. And I also just want to touch on the competitive engine so we've got that positioning of where leadership fits in very clear. 3 circles of leadership, 3 circles of advancement: self, others, and organizations. And you remember this diagram, which is again just coming up: achiever, enabler, catalysts. There's 3 levels of growth you need to go through. First, you need to become an achiever. You need to become someone who in actual fact is capable of delivering for themselves. And I'll come back to that in a moment. From there, once you can do that, once you've achieved that level, excuse that expression, doubling up, achiever achieves, Then you go on to being an enabler. That is someone who can help others become an achiever. And then once you're doing that, then you can step out into the wider circle where you become a catalyst. Someone who in actual fact can turn an entire organization into an achiever. And it's very important we need to remember that we need to go through these 3 levels of growth. For your leaders to be worthy leaders operating at that organizational level, that catalyst, they themselves must be an achiever. They must be an enabler, and then they can step into this role and an understanding of being a catalyst. 3 levels, very important. So what's an achiever? Just going to touch on that very quickly, and I think what I'll do is a step out section, a step out video on the achiever to go into that in a bit more detail. But what does an achiever look like? I'm just going to read this from one of my guides. Who's an achiever? They have a life in which they are continually growing and building from one success to another in what seems to be and what is a never-ending journey of fulfillment. A life in which they have developed the achiever trait and are building on that and are growing that. It becomes their DNA. It defines who they are as a person, is a good way to express it. A person who can get things done and has a life that many others only dream about because they are achieving what they set out to achieve and are fulfilled by that. What do they look like? Maybe that's a good way just to give you a snapshot of the achiever. So an achiever, you'll see them and you'll recognize them. There's someone who is self-confident but not arrogant. Someone who is strong but relaxed. Someone who is articulate in purpose. Someone who is clear in their beliefs. Someone who is renewing through the words and language they use. Someone who is grateful in life, giving, humble and playful. This is the sorts of traits you see of an achiever. There's someone who steps out and just keeps going and going and going from one success, from one goal to another to another. And there is a skill to doing this. There is a learned skill, I think, to do this. So that breakout video may help you understand that. But our starting point for today in leadership, you want people who are achievers, who can then become enablers, who can then become catalysts. Let's just now step through into the competitive engine and just revisit that. So we just nail this positioning of the importance of leadership. The competitive engine. Doesn't matter what type of organization you've got. In every organization, operating 24/7, 365 days a year is a competitive engine. It sets the ceiling to your success and it sets the floor. How high you can go and how far you can fall. Whether you recognize it or not, it's there and it's operating. It's better you do recognize it and it's better you do seek to influence it, but it determines performance at all levels of an organization. The practice of non-greed is founded in the workings of the competitive engine. We need to get the competitive engine and its elements operating in their right character and together. So again, just to refresh your minds on this, I know we've touched on this before, 3 parts coming up on your screen now. Part 1 to the competitive engine is the core. Part 2 is focus. Part 3 is the fuel. Core, focus, fuel make up the competitive engine, and there's 10 elements going through those. So today we're starting with one of those elements. We're starting with leadership. Leadership, you can say, is the core of the core. It's a bit funny, but when I think about the core of the competitive engine, I'm thinking of core strength, the real essence of where our energy and strength comes from. And leadership is the core of that core. So again, looking at the image coming up, you can see leadership sitting at the center of the core of our engine, the core of our strength. Engaging with motive, with purpose, with employees, setting vision and culture, that energy which is going to take us forward. So if we don't get leadership right, everything else begins to crumble around that. That's why leadership is so important. Organizations, businesses are conceived and created by their leaders. They are developed and grown by their leaders. So it's that essence. Leadership creates the essence of an organization and sustains it. That becomes very important. So with that that positioning, let's just begin to move into and look at the 8 perspectives of leadership I spoke about and touched on before. Number 1, conception and death. It's almost the way in which you see leadership in the context of an organization and a business. It starts and finishes with the worthiness of leadership. And we really struggle with this sense of worthiness because we relate it to profit. And profit is not a measure of worthiness at all. A business is conceived through leadership by its creator. Founder is the language we would use now. And it's led through various stages of its life, of its growth, by a series, quite often just a better way to express it is a network of leaders. These leaders are responsible for who the business is, its success, its impact in a community, the good and bad which it does, and the length of its life. Businesses never fail. Their leaders fail. I'll say that again. Businesses don't fail, their leaders fail. Businesses succeed through worthy leaders who craft, nurture, optimize, and maximize the talent and the effort of all its people, which is really one of the key principles of the competitive engine, bringing forward the performance of everyone in the organization, within and without, all those involved in it. So when you think about leadership, just think of that fundamental relationship between the leaders and the business. There's not a detachment. They are the ones who grow or dismantle a business. And therefore, the importance of having worthy leaders is anchored in that and that understanding. It's one, conception and death. The second perspective, the second lens to look at leadership through is the physics of leadership. Yes, there is a physics of leadership. Leadership is about an energy, which in actual fact is I suppose, projected across an organization. But a better way to think about it is organizations are a community of people, and that community of people circle around a leader at its center. So the way to think about the physics of leadership is three aspects: dynamics, strength, and nature. Dynamics, strength, and nature. Dynamics. Organizations, businesses are a community of people. Communities seek out and are drawn to leaders. Who are we? Where are we going to? What do we need to do? They're looking. This dynamic of this community circling around the leader, it's a centripetal force. And I simply refer to leadership as a centripetal leadership. And what this means is people in an organization are not looking up to the leaders and the leader looking down. No. Pyramid structure, forget it. What they're doing is they're looking into the leader. And think of that circle, a community of people moving momentum around, and they're all looking into the leader. The leader is visible, absolutely and completely. First one, dynamics. Organizations circle around their leaders. They look into their leaders. The leader is the center. Second aspect of the physics is strength. With all forms of energy, leadership is the same. Its strength is finite. And the way I express this is the reach of a leader, the influence of the leader is finite. My influence can only go so far, and then it begins to weaken and diminish. And at that point, what do I need to do? I need to appoint another leader who will continue this influence forward. And you look at your leadership and you look at how your leadership goes through an organization. It is a network through all the levels of an organization. Keeping in mind each one of them becomes a core of a community. And therefore, what you need to do is to make sure that when you're building a leadership team, that you are appointing worthy leaders. And the rule for strength, your weakest leader sets the ceiling to your success. I'll say that again. Your weakest leader sets the ceiling to your success. The success of your organization, the success of you as a leader. Think of it this way. If this is the standard of leadership I've got, and I introduce someone who I'm not too sure about, but I'm not sure if I've got another choice, then what will happen is they will very quickly drag all your leaders down to that level. Strength. It's finite, and you must appoint other worthy leaders to sustain your influence. The third aspect of the physics of leadership is the nature, and it is nature. The quintessential role of a worthy leader is to achieve harmony within their field of influence. Again, finite, and within my field of influence as a leader, what I seek to achieve is harmony. What do I mean by harmony? Think of the workings of the competitive engine, everything in the right character, lifting performance, real performance, potential performance to the forefront of everyone involved in the business. My goal in harmony is to optimize the competitive engine. So the physics of leadership, just to close out this area, 3 aspects. Dynamics, people are not looking up to you, they're looking into you, and you are very visible. 2, my influence only goes so far, and I need to appoint someone else to continue that influence through the organization. They must also be a worthy leader. My weakest leader sets basically the ceiling to my success. And the 3rd one, in essence, the quintessential nature of my role, to achieve harmony, to make sure everything's working smoothly, if you just like that language. And therefore we just strike forward at greatest potential coming forward. 2, the physics of leadership. Never look at it as a pyramid, think of it as a circle with you in the middle. 3rd aspect is the role of leaders. So we've talked about leaders achieving harmony, and they do that through the workings of the competitive engine. But we bring it down to a more practical, functional level. How can we express the role of leaders? I think the first thing we're going to say is leadership is not about authority. It's not about decision making. It's not about I will tell you what to do and you must do it. No, not at all. Leadership is pretty simple. It's responsibility. As I step into a role of leadership, I now have put on my shoulders a level of responsibility to achieve the harmony, to sustain purpose, to uphold the moral value. We'll see these as we go forward. So I think when you think about the role of leaders, you can simplify it by just saying there's 3 aspects. I need to say, what are my prime tasks? What do I need to do about myself personally? And what do I need to just keep my eye open for? 3 aspects. Prime tasks: direction, alignment, and then energy. It's my responsibility to set, hold the direction of the business. Who are we? Why are we here? What purpose are we seeking to achieve? I need to make sure that is clear, and I need to maintain that. I need to make sure that in setting, holding that direction, that I'm aligning everything into that. People, resources, systems, processes, culture, everything is coming into a single focus. This is where we're going to. Let's get everything aligned with that. Now, let's build the momentum. And the 3rd aspect of my prime task is motivating and inspiring everyone in the organization. It's lifting them up and getting them highly engaged. All these tasks are interdependent. Can't do one and not the other. So what do I need to do as a leader? Direction, alignment, and then energy or momentum, whichever word you prefer. I need to set the direction. I need to hold that direction. Need to be consistent with the purpose for which we exist. I need to make sure everything is aligned with that and everything is moving with that. And then I need to motivate and inspire everyone to get in behind that. The competitive engine will help me do that. It is designed to give me the tools to make sure that happens. Prime task, direction, alignment, energy. Second aspect of the role of leaders, I think, is just to focus personally. If you go back to the achiever, the enabler, the catalyst, that is very much a model which is saying you must be continuously growing within yourself. What does that mean? Well, I need to be building my character as a worthy leader. I need to make sure that I'm leading through actions, not words, actions. I lead through actions and the words reinforce what I'm doing. I need to make sure I share the hardship and the burdens of the people in the organization. I share their burdens, not that I push mine down to them. I need to make sure the business is energized with just a level of high morale. We are just so excited with what we do and the impact we have in the market. Need to be succinct. All my communications, clear, consistent, transparent. No half-heartedness. And I need to make sure there is a strategy, there is a wisdom behind how we're moving into our markets, into the purpose for which we exist. And I need to make sure that we only have other worthy leaders. So this is about me. The second role of a leader is about growing myself individually and growing all the leaders in my organization to make sure they also are continuing to grow within themselves. Achiever enabler catalysts, character, strengthening that. So I'm responsible for setting the direction and getting everything going, prime task number one. Number two, I have to grow within myself and strengthen my leadership. Third aspect is I need to be on guard. And I just express this as introspection in the organization. It's looking at the organization as if I'm the organization, look at it in the mirror and say, what needs to be fixed? And this is, again, the competitive agent will give you the lens to do this. But what do you mean? What are the sorts of things I should be looking at for in the organization? Well, paradigms. Unearth, challenge, and remove paradigms. Paradigms are mindsets, ways of just locking in what we think we should be doing and never challenge them. And they tend to be based in history, not the future. So you unearth, challenge, remove paradigms. You recognize individuals. Someone who has made a contribution, you uplift them, you reward them. You make sure bureaucracy doesn't seek to have rewards kept at a certain level and the people who actually did the work not recognized. You need to permit and encourage a freedom of thinking because that leads to change. So you want things changing, you want things moving forward, so you must empower that. Again, think introspection. I'm looking into the organization as a leader. I'm saying, are any of these things happening? Politics, self-interest, wherever you see them, hunt them down, remove them, crush them, get them out of the way. I want knowledge to be shared. So are we gathering and sharing knowledge across the entire organization to help everyone grow, or do we have some people who are sort of holding it to one side to protect themselves? So this learning, this strategic learning, if you want to call that, becomes quite important. And I need to make sure we are an organization which is capable of delivery. We don't just talk, we do. So the third aspect, this on guard, this introspection, is saying one of the roles we're going to do is be looking at the organization all the time because it's our job to make it a performance-centric organization, and therefore I need to be looking into that. So what's the role of a leader? Well, my prime task is to say who we are, where we're going to, and to make sure everything is aligned with that and to uplift people to get them committed into that. I need to also be looking at myself and my leaders to make sure we are worthy and we're growing ourselves continuously. And then I need to be stepping back and looking at the organization as a whole and saying, where are we holding ourselves back? Let me fix that. So that's the role of leaders. I think it's a simple way to expressing it. Number 4, 5 marks of death. I'm putting this in here and speaking to this as another lens because it's the other side of introspection to some extent. If you see these things, if you see these warning signs, you're in trouble. 5 marks of death, what are they? They're traits, they're catalysts, they're indicators of elements which are going to drag the competitiveness of the organization down. It's going to hold it back, it's going to be a barrier, it's going to be an anchor which stops it, but it can also just wipe it out basically, very quickly. So what are the 5 marks of death? 1, living in past glories. What does that mean? When you sit there quietly as a leader and you listen to the language, what do I hear? I hear everyone talking about, typically a leadership team, elements in the leadership team, talking about, the great things we did 5 years ago, the things I did 10 years ago. It's all about the glories of the past. It's nothing about the possibilities of the future. Living in past glories tends to be anchoring us in the past to protect a position or an attitude. So if you hear language which is about the past, living in past glories, that's wonderful, but what are we going to do tomorrow? Second mark of death, the absence of youth. Now this doesn't mean where are the young people, no, not at all. It means where is vigor, energy, passion to explore, to try things differently, the annoying questions of why we do this, the challenging the status quo. An absence of youth is reflecting a lack of a passion to push the boundaries and to do a lot more and to explore the future. You want that energy. Do we have that? Third of the 5 marks of death, naysayers. Always 2 answers to anything. Someone says, let's try this. And there's 1 or 2 answers. 1, we did that once before and it never really worked, we're never going to do it again. Second answer, no, we've never tried that. Look how successful we are. Let's just not go near that at all. Naysayers block change. Number 4, lack of evangelism. You look around and you say, is there any energy? Is there any enthusiasm? Where is that evangelistic attitude about why we exist, what we're doing, how we're changing the way in which things work, how we're striding forward, how we're building community? Everyone is just so proud of the work we do and the possibilities, and there's just this unrestricted energy. And you can say a lack of evangelism basically is there's just no enthusiasm. I come here because I have to. Last one, carnal leadership. What's carnal leadership? Members of your leadership team are interested in one thing, themselves. It is all about them. It's about upholding their position, living in their past glories. It's about the rewards they get. It's about keeping everyone down. 5 marks of death: living in past glories, an absence of youth, naysayers rule, a lack of evangelism, and carnal leadership. If you see any of these 5 signs, it's an indicator to you, a red light indicator, that you've got problems in your leadership team, in your organization, and you need to deal with them and eliminate that very quickly. They hold you back. One, two, three, 4 we've looked at. 5, failure. Why would we be talking about failure? Failure is a test of character of your leadership team. But failure is something, if you don't have the right attitude and approach to, can simply just stop the progression of your organization in its tracks. And there's 3 aspects. Failure is never about you. It's never about an individual person. It is about the character of the organization. And it is also about what I'll call humility. 3 aspects. It's not you. It is about character, and it is something which requires humility. Failure is not when something has been done wrong. Not when I breached policy. Not when I went off and did something which I knew I should not be doing. Not when I pushed boundaries beyond where I know they should be bound, should be sort of controlled. Not when I've stepped outside that. So failure is not when I did something wrong. Failure in a corporate context, an organizational context, is about trying. If I'm an organization which is pushing myself on the edge, I'm really pushing performance, we're going to be trying lots of things. We're going to be leading on the edge. We're going to be stepping into areas which honestly we don't know, but we're going to step into it, we're going to try, and we're going to see if we can make it work. And therefore, not achieving what we expected to achieve is going to be a common outcome. You don't stop there. And I think that's the key aspect of failure. You don't stop there. As a leader, you've got to say, when something has failed, how did we set the expectations to start off with, and how are we now going to respond to it? It's never about an individual. This is the part 1 of failure. It's not about you. So as a leader, it's not about I failed, it's failure, it's a black mark. It's not about the individual who was running the project. Oh, you failed. Remember, failure is not about doing something wrong. Failure is about trial, error, finding the answer. So the first thing you need to do when you think about failure is to make sure it does not land on an individual. It is not about their performance. It's not about their capability. It's in actual fact about their risk and their willingness to try. And often that is the key aspect of leadership. The second point I just want to talk about on character, it's an indication of a character of the leadership team, of the organization, as of the individuals. You need to learn to fail, to pick yourself up, and to carry forward. It's about trial and error. Some organizations, that's just a part of the nature of what they do. Other organizations, you would say failure is basically a death touch and you're out of here. You need to make sure that that does not occur, and failure is, in one sense, managed, but in another sense, is a process by which we didn't get the outcome we want. What have we got? What have we learned? How can we take it forward? And just as a very quick sidestep, in strategic management theory, there is a language which basically turns around and says, what you expect to happen is likely not to happen. What will happen will be something which emerges, which was unrealized. it's really never going to be deliberate. It's going to be something which you learn and you grab the opportunity and you go for it. So an aspect of the character and the way you think of failure, nothing's ever a failure. It's what can we learn from and how we take it to and how are we going forward. Because we're doing something to achieve an outcome. We haven't found the way to do that yet, but we're going to keep pushing into it. First two aspects on failure. It's not about an individual. It's not about you as a leader or another leader. It's not about, the sort of, you're out of here. It is a measure of character, and you want that character to be reinforced. You want people trying. The third aspect is about humility. Humility allows you to learn, to be grateful, not to take yourself too seriously, to seek continuous improvement, to take failure in their stride, to work with the best at the best. So what I mean by humility in this context is, didn't quite get it, let's keep going. Didn't quite get it, let's keep going. Didn't quite get it, what do we need to change? Let's keep going. It's an acceptance of the fact you are going to trip over, but you're going to get up and keep going. Why are we looking at failure in the context of leadership? Leaders are seeking to take their organization forward. They want them to continuously improve, to continuously push the boundaries. This is how you are competitive. Therefore, as you lean into things, you're going to trip over every now and then. As a leader, you need to make sure the way you think about failure is correct. It's not about a person. It's reflective of our character as an organization, and it is about humility. If you get this wrong, it can be devastating. If you end up with a culture, I'll just use that word, in which you failed, now you're going to pay the price for that. Then suddenly what you see is throughout the entire organization, one, no one wants to try anything because they'll only be blamed for it. Two, leaders protect themselves and blame others for things they were responsible for. And you get this culture of blame. And that breaks down the entire organization, and your ability to step forward and achieve things is just wiped out and diminished. It's an interesting one. Failure. The fifth lens, you look at your organization as a leader and you say, how do we think about failure, and have we got that right? Number 6 in the lenses, self-interest and success. Self-interest is the one action that will most likely undermine your success. I'll say that again. Self-interest is the one action that will most likely undermine your success. As a leader in an organization, if you put yourself first and keep everyone else down, then you're going to fail. Why? Because my performance as a leader, my performance as an organization depends on uplifting their potential, their capability, and pushing that forward. I succeed because they have succeeded. Self-interest tends to crush all of that. Self-interest tends to say, it's about me, it's about my rewards, it's about my glory, it's about my position, it's about my bonuses. I need to make sure all the good comes to me and all the blame goes to them. If there's a failure, it's their fault. If something went right, it's my glory and they had nothing to do with it. And you see this happening in organizations continuously. And it just demotivates and undermines contribution. Don't be someone who is tied to self-interest. You go back, am I an achiever? Am I an enabler? Am I a catalyst? All of this requires that I put others first. And my self-interest is fulfilled because they succeed, and therefore I am the one which has helped them to succeed. You need to remember centripetal leadership. Everyone is looking in at you. You're not sitting up the top and you're sort of, I'm hiding, they can't see what I'm up to. No, you're in the middle. Everyone can see what you're doing. And as self-interest and ego and pride begin to come out of you, everyone will say they're in it for themselves. Let's all be in it for ourselves. And it just breaks the competitiveness of the organization down. Tied into self-interest is a little bit about your sense of success. I won't touch on it today. Again, I may do a break-off session on that. But the way people think of success is fundamental to leadership and self-interest. I think just reflect upon that, and maybe we'll come back to that. Seven, character. This is a very simple and very easy one. It's another lens, the seventh lens we're looking through. Character is a gateway. I'll say that again. Character is a gateway. If I do not pass the character test, I do not become a leader. It's not about capability, it's not about experience, it's not about who I know, it's not about bringing my mates online, it doesn't matter about some trait or characteristics that I want to say, see, we have all of this. And honestly, it's not about my compatibility. It starts with character, who I am as an individual. If I pass that test, then all the other things can be considered. If I don't pass that test, I don't become a leader. Worthy leadership lies in character. I need to pass that. We're going to step into that in the eighth one when we look at what a worthy leader looks like, who they are. But in a classical sense, you should test your leaders to see whether in actual fact they are worthy. You test their character. I give them power. I give them authority. I give them responsibility. I hold a carrot out for them. How do they respond to that? Does self-interest and ego suddenly come up and grab hold of that? Or are they uplifting the organisation and using the organisation to fulfill the mandate which I've given to them? So I'll leave it there, but character first, everything else second. As we step forward into number 8, where we're talking about worthy leadership, I just want to speak about the foundation for where we've landed. And I touch upon this in, I think it was chapter 2 of this series. The foundation for leadership, as I'm presenting it to you, is from a series of classical Chinese works on strategy. 8 works in actual fact, ranging from the period about 1100 BC to about 100 AD. That's about 1200 years of applied philosophy, of experience, which has been distilled into what does a worthy leader look like. These classical works on strategy were not just about warfare, they're about building nations, they're about building communities. It was a nation building study which applies to organizations and business. How do I bring the strength together? I just wanted to mention that because that moral value, that sense of purpose, that is where it's coming from. So let's just begin to look at a worthy leader and see how that comes together. So worthy leader, you want certain traits. There's 4 positive traits you want, and there's 5 negative traits you definitely don't want. So let's just speak into those. Courage, discipline, sincerity and humanity, and wisdom. These are the traits I want. I want leaders who have got the courage to act and take the risks to enable the business, the organization, to achieve its goals. I have to be willing to do that. I have to be willing to step over that line. I want a leader who has discipline. The discipline to enforce the rules of the business in pursuit of purpose, vision and culture. This is why we're here. This is the way we work. This is who we are. You need to be consistent and comply with that. I have the strength of character to enforce that. Sincerity and humanity. Why? So everyone knows that you are authentic, you are committed to the purpose and the vision of the business, that you will support them, recognize them, reward them, and their efforts will be uplifted. And the last one, number 4, wisdom. I need leaders who are wise to enable them to quickly recognize opportunities, circumstances in the business environment, and step into them and lead the change which is necessary to win or to protect. I want leaders who've got the courage, the discipline, the sincerity and humanity, and the wisdom to be worthy leaders. I don't want, definitely do not want, leaders who exhibit any of these traits. Cowardness. It's only going to lead to lost opportunities. They're so scared of failure, they're so scared of how it would impact them, that they're not willing to step in and take the risk. And therefore, change won't occur, opportunities won't be captured. It doesn't help me at all. I want leaders who are, that's a good way to express this, bound by a false pride. It's about me and how I am seen in the communities in which I mix. My image, my feelings are more important than what's happening in the business. 1, it's easily manipulated. 2, it stops me again from doing what is right for the organisation in terms of the competitive engine, but also the purpose and the reason why we exist. because I'm putting myself first. It's self-interest again. Impulsiveness. We don't want leaders who are impulsive. Impulsiveness, rage, there's no wisdom, they will, knee-jerk reaction to something, easily exploited, easily led. You don't want that at all. Bad decisions. Reckless. You don't want leaders who are reckless. Someone who has got a bravado and overconfidence, again, typically it is about me, I know what we can achieve, this is me. And boom, you go out and do it without being wise and without... Courage is not about foolishness. Courage is about sensibility. And last one, weak compassion. You don't want leaders who are so scared of enforcing a discipline, of speaking out, of saying no, that they allow the purpose, the vision, the culture of the organisation just be washed away because they're not willing to stand up for it. We do not want leaders who display cowardice, false pride, impulsiveness, recklessness, or have a weak compassion. So we go back to the beginning and we turn around and we say, we want worthy leaders. Worthy leaders lies in character. Character is a benchmark. It is a gateway, is a better way to express a test, which you must fulfill before you can become a leader. And I want to make sure this is applying to all my leaders. I want all my leaders growing. What do I mean by character? What I just spoke to. I want people with courage, discipline, sincerity, humanity, wisdom. I don't want people who are scared, people who are full of pride, people who are impulsive, people who are just reckless, people who have weak compassion. Here's your character test. Who are you? Can I just paint a picture of what working for a worthy leader looks like? And I'll just sort of read this out as we go through. It's probably easier. So imagine if I had a leader who is worthy. They are someone who has at their core humility and an attitude of gratitude. So this is what it's going to be like working for them. They invest themselves in uplifting you and bringing your talents to the forefront. They place themselves last and they seek to serve the business and its customers first. They recognize and reward your talents. They believe learning is important and they create a culture of continual learning and therefore growth for you. They listen to you and they listen to your ideas openly, sincerely. They seek to work with the best at their best. They don't take themselves too seriously. They take failure in their stride and they do not seek to attribute blame to others. They seek to win your support and your trust, to know that I am sincere and authentic. They basically have a positive attitude to life and they come to work with an excitement of the day ahead and what we can do. They view everything through the lens of opportunity. How can we make this better? What can we achieve? And they generally just give thanks for their life and what they have in it. If you have worthy leaders at the helm and throughout the ranks of your organisation, you'll be a business which attracts the best of the best. And with that, you'll be a business which steps out and sets the future of the community in which you're working. So leadership is the core of the competitive engine, but it is the worthiness of leadership. It is about worthy leaders which rest in character. It is about understanding how the importance of leadership is for the growth of a business, the conception and death. It is understanding the physics of leadership and recognizing I'm not sitting at the top, I'm sitting in the middle, and I need to appoint other worthy leaders. I need to fundamentally have a very simple understanding of the role of my leaders. I'm setting direction, I'm holding that. I'm continually growing myself and the other leaders, and I'm seeking to achieve a harmony throughout the entire organisation. I'm looking to see how we're performing. I'm very conscious of the things, the 5 marks of death which can pull us down. Failure. No. Failure is about continual growth and trial. We'll continue to push in. Self-interest, I keep trying to keep out of it, and I'm helping you to grow. I'm very conscious of the character. I'm looking for character flaws. This is who we are as an organisation. We seek to have worthy leaders. It is a journey which never stops and is continuing, but we're very conscious that the ability of our organisation to achieve its goals is dependent upon having worthy leaders, and therefore that is where we focus. The core of the core, worthy leadership. So we might just pause there and stop there on this first expression, this first stepping into the competitive engine. Leadership. worthy leaders. I hope that what we've spoken about today gives you some ideas and some thoughts about your leadership and the leadership in your organisation and how you may be able to strengthen that and grow that. I thank you for your attention, I thank you for your time, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's Sally here. I work with Richard. You will see coming up on the next 3 slides. Firstly, a URL link if you are interested in purchasing Richard's guide to the competitive engine, titled Compete, which is a 274-page full-color guide in either printed or a digital PDF format, or both if you wish. Secondly, a URL link to Richard's library of some 500 articles on the various elements of the competitive engine and more that you can access freely. And thirdly, there is an email address for any questions you may have. These are great resources, and I commend them to you. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and I hope to see you again soon.